Why wait to see if you'll get something you like this Valentine's Day when you can go to BlueNile.com and find something you'll love? Whether you're looking to treat yourself to a little winter sparkle or show a galentine how much you appreciate them, Blue Nile offers a wide selection of high-quality designs, expert guidance, and free 30-day returns for the ultimate peace of mind. You can even design your own jewelry. Right now, save up to 50% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Hello, and welcome to Slogging It. It's just Jono and myself tonight, and this is a bit of a random one for us. We are recording at the end of the first test of the England versus India series, of which most people have lost their houses, I would assume, based off how the test match started. We're also going to be covering a little bit of the Australia versus West Indies review, but right, let's just get straight into it, Jono. Did you think that England had any chance of winning this test series as and when we started?
No. Well, I
Nice
think
and
I
easy.
said, in the last episode, we asked each other, didn't we? What I think I gave us a 10% chance of having a test series win.
Yes.
And that flashed through my mind today when I was watching just the turnaround of all turnarounds, quite frankly. And I thought, oh, crikey, maybe I've done us a bit of a disservice there. I think you and I both went 10%. I think
Or
Robbo
one.
maybe went
10%, but we went for one. And
we did go for
England
one.
have their one.
Yes, they do. I mean, I'm useless at predictions, as we've learned over the 3 and a bit years that we've been doing this. But I actually think now anybody who has ever questioned Bazball and their approach, and I think that the gung ho nature of what it was at times has been tempered. But I'm beginning to, and I think other people are beginning to learn that the Bazball approach isn't just what you see from 90 overs of cricket a day for 5 days or however long a test match lasts. It's very much about, okay, what goes on behind the scenes? How do they talk to the players? How do the players interact with each other? Like the methodology about how they want to go about playing their cricket, the respect levels within the dressing room, the way that they're willing to work for each other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what Bazball is about. It's not just about let's just go out and try and crash it from ball one until we're all out and then try and bowl the other side out for less. But yeah, it's been, I've been up at 4 most mornings to kind of watch it. I've been that excited about it. It looked like we're a long way away for a lot of this test match.
Well,
but then
you had 2 players that went from 0 to hero. And actually, let's pick into that a little bit, because when England first batted, I mean, they won the toss. We did say also in the last episode that whoever won the toss was more than likely going to win the game.
Yeah.
But I think we all agree that it didn't look that way after the first innings, when it looked like some really sketchy shots. I mean, particularly Ollie Pope, and we'll get to him in a second. But then also, the way that Stokes bowled Tom Hartley for 9 overs in that first day, where he bowled 9 overs for 63. And both of those chaps just turned, as I say, from 0 to hero. So, I mean, what did you make of the first innings? Let's start there.
Look, I think in Crawley and Duckett, we found a really reliable opening partnership, and they've proven that now in all conditions. So, and against, the Australians, against the Indians, they face some really good bowling attacks, and that, it was an opening partnership. They look solid. Zach Crawley now looks to go from strength to strength. I think Duckett looks like he's been playing Test cricket for a hell of a lot longer than he has. Yes, he had a very early go at it years back when they picked him in, I think, to go to Bangladesh from memory. But then I think he threw a drink at someone or something something happened, and he then went off into the wilderness for a while. But looks like he knows his game. The thing, another thing to bring up, I've never been able to sweep particularly or reverse sweep. It's just never been a part of my game. But the way that they now use that as a form of defence, I find is incredible. Yeah. And the way to hear the commentators talk about sweeping and reverse sweeping being almost a defensive shot, because there were times today where when Bharat came out, when Bharat and Ashwin were batting, the they were just playing straight down the line of the ball and just missing it. And there's always going to be one with your name on it. Eventually, you got a great one, Barat, didn't you, from Hartley?
Yeah.
But they then start to go to playing what would be seen as, I guess, previously have thought of as more high-risk shots. But they see that as actually a more defensive option than just playing straight down the line and eventually nicking one. But to go back to your question, I'm aware I've digressed a bit there, but Pope looked every bit that he hadn't played in any kind of competitive game since July.
Yeah.
Getting a bit handsy, pushing hard at the ball, a bit frantic. And he's a busy player, and he's quick on his feet and so on and so forth. But he didn't look settled. He didn't look calm, and that's understandable. We'll talk about the second innings in a minute. But what he said in the interview after and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this have watched that interview or heard that interview. He said that his method was that he was always trying to protect the inside edge and the pad, because even if he edges it with the outside edge, it's still got to carry and they've still got to grab it. So the idea of pushing at the ball, he was so determined to get his bat out in front of his pad to protect those two dismissals that he was almost willing to be nicked off. I think he did nick off eventually, didn't he? That's how he was out in the first innings. But there's almost like the thinking about, okay, I don't mind if I nick off on the outside edge because it's still got to carry and they've still got to grab it. But that's also that is a consequence of thinking proactively about how he wants to protect his inside edge, and the short leg fielder potentially, and then the LBW. So, but I mean, look, that I didn't see much of his innings yesterday. Some of the shots he was playing were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, and if he hadn't have missed that slower ball off Bumrah when he got bowled eventually, what a way to go to 200 that would have been, by the way.
I know. Just shows your mentality, right? These guys are on a different level here. Right. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about nudging singles to get to 200.
And it's just, there are a couple of times where, the reverse lap now has kind of come into the game a lot more prominently. But there was one, and when I saw it, I was like, what have I just seen? I actually said it out loud, and Lisa was like, what are you talking about? And there was a shot, I can't remember who the bowler was, but he kind of almost flicked it straight over his head, but not in a classical ramp style or reverse ramp style. It just looked different to me, and I was like, okay, my mind's now beginning to be a bit blown by these lads and what they can do, but the technique, but the bravery, like you can't. Let's take that ball where Pope was eventually out this morning. Like, you've got to be some kind of nuts to even consider putting your face that close to it where Jasprit Bumrah might be sending one down at 91, 92 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But it's going, it's all right because I backed myself to hit it. Like, that is just silly season for me. Yeah. But he turned the
deficit into a lead.
Well, I mean, people, they were going, there was that stat that's been farmed about for the entire test match. India have never lost a test match where they had at least a 100-run lead after the first innings. Well, no, that's not quite true. They never lost a test match where they conceded more than 65, where they had more than a 65 lead. So I think that was in 1930 against some Australian.
Okay.
The Australians.
Yeah.
So actually, the 190 is 5 away from being 3 times as many as they've ever lost to, if that makes sense. So it just puts into perspective what a massive result this is for this England team. Just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Do you know what I saw as a major difference between the Indian batting lineup versus the English batting lineup is England, yes, they were taking slightly more chances and a lot more risk, but they were scoring shots, not necessarily trying to survive. And the mentality when you look at previous touring sides, everyone's gone out there and try to survive and get through, patches. Yeah. England don't have that mentality. They go out there and they're going to score at 4 or 5 runs to the over. And if they happen to get bowled out for whatever it is, then so be it. But just the positivity of the cricket that they play. And it goes across the whole batting lineup. I mean, everybody that came in played very, very positively. I mean, it gave England that opportunity to score runs, and it could have been, if they tried to hang in there like maybe some of the older touring sides might have done, they would have been bowled out for under 100, or they wouldn't have got to that 400 in the lead that they had. That gave the bowlers the opportunity. But talking of the bowlers, Tom Hartley comes into the side, bowls 2 overs, gets whacked for 30. What are you thinking after that?
On their first day in office, with a country in crisis, President Biden and Vice President Harris got to work for us, cutting Black child poverty in half, delivering more money to Black entrepreneurs, and creating millions of new good-paying jobs. They've lowered health insurance premiums and made prescription drugs more affordable. And they capped the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 per month. Because we all deserve a fair shot to get ahead. And they're making sure our voices are heard by putting South Carolina first in this year's Democratic primary election. Show President Biden and Vice President Harris your support in the Democratic primary election. You can vote early in person from January 22nd to February 2nd, or you can vote on Election Day on Saturday, February 3rd. Early voting is closed on Sunday, January 28th.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
So, I mean, look, tough. And everybody's going, oh my God, Simon Kerrigan 2.0, And I think that, what, and I know you didn't see this, and we talked about this off air, didn't we? And I knew you were going to bring this up. Ben Stokes was asked about this by Harsha Bhogle in his post-match press conference. And Ben just said, look, this bloke's come into the squad. And I said to him that you were going to open the bowling and you will have an extended spell. So he said, so why wouldn't I ring true to that? Because one of his things as a captain and as a leader is that he wants to do for people what he says he's going to do. Yeah. And I think that is why there is so much buy-in from the rest of the guys around him into Stokes and what he's about and what Ben and Baz have created in this Baz Ball era. If in order to, as any captain, you and I are both captain sides successfully at times, not so successfully at others, but it's what you really need is your guys to back you. If you feel as a captain that you're the 10 lads around you and those guys carrying drinks, or within the squad environment have 100% got your back as captain, a big part of that is getting them to buy into what you're trying to do and trying to achieve. And if people start questioning you as a captain about your methods or why they're not doing this at certain times, or they are doing this at certain other times, if they don't feel that that's the right thing for them, then you're on a bit of a hiding to nothing. Rahan bowled, I think, 2 1-over spells, went for 13, I think 8 in his first over and got yanked out of the attack, 13 in another over, got yanked out of the attack. And I think that he has probably been told, look, you're a leg spinner, it doesn't always work. You've been brilliant in Pakistan. You know that you're part of what we're trying to achieve and what we want to do in the future, but just be patient. And I think Rahan is potentially, when you're that young, you want to be involved and you want to be the guy that's bowling the overs and taking the wickets and getting the plaudits and this, that and the other. But he kind of looks calm and he kind of looks just willing to go with the flow of what Stokes asked him to do. So I think that for Tom Hartley to have had that first 3 overs where he's been belted for 30, he must have been thinking, fucking hell, I'm being yanked out of the attack and I might never bowl in Test cricket again. But that backing given to him by Ben and the rest of the unit and whatever, he was interviewed after the game as well, and he said it just allowed him to settle a little bit. He picked up 2 wickets in the first innings, but then match winning 7 for in the second innings, and he's great to see. Is he probably a long-term option for England outside of subcontinental conditions? I would probably say not, but we will see. Jack Leach, bit of a knee problem that might cause us some issues. But then Joe Root bowled really well. Joe Root's probably bowled 40 overs in the Test match, so and bowled very, very well. You can talk about that stat in a minute that you sent to us yesterday. But look, really positive signs for England. we shouldn't get giddy. We shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. It's great that we've gone 1-0 up, but it's not. It doesn't mean we're going to go on and win the series, or we're going to win it 5-0 or whatever. Ben Stokes said before the Test series that to win one match out there was going to be a massive achievement, and they've done that. So that's great. But I think let's hold our horses a little bit before we let our minds start running away for us about what can be achieved over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. And I mean, look, Ben Stokes learned from the first innings, because in the second innings he oped as Joe Root, somebody that was turning the ball away from Jaiswal's middle of his bat instead of the way Tom Hartley was bowling into the middle of his bat and getting whacked everywhere. So
and two of the great catches you've ever seen by Ollie Pope, short leg and short silly mid off, by the way, like crikey, like unbelievable.
And not only can he bat, he can also grab half decently.
Oh yeah. No, he's vice captain. Ollie Pope's going to be around for a long, long time. I once played a match down at his old school in Surrey, and you go in there and you look at the boards, as all these independent schools have, and it's just OJ Pope everywhere, like 100, double 100, double 100, double 100, triple 100, 100, 100, 100, double 100, 100. Unbelievable, right? He's always been one that Surrey have very much had their eye on from when he was very, very young. I think was it Cranley? I think it's Cranley you might have gone. Yeah, I think it's Cranley you went to, Cranley School. But yeah, a great day to be an England fan, but we've got to temper that excitement with the reality of what may yet come to pass.
Yeah. Well, we're still in with it, right? So we said 4-1. England have got their one. One would argue that the pitches are going to look substantially different. Maybe some green seamers might be nice because of England only selecting one seamer in this game, which was slightly, which is, very brave. What a selection. I mean, who would have thought it ended up this way? So yeah, England go 1-up. The other Test series.
How about 4-0 India?
Yes, he did. Yes, he thought there was going to be a draw.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, Robert went 4-0. So, but yeah, there is another Test series going on, of which again another, unprecedented win, another unheard of win, another what would you like to call it? I mean, the West Indies turning over Australia.
Unbelievable. I think that's the first time. Well, I know it's the first time Australia have ever lost a pink ball day-night Test match. It's a very young, relatively inexperienced West Indian side. And yeah, look, great things coming from them. This is it Shamar Joseph? The lad who's taken 7 for. I haven't seen any of this, by the way. I know that our good mate Josh got 79 in the first innings, one of 2 scores of 70 plus, I think, to set it up. But I think the bowling performances from a West Indian point of view, certainly in the second innings, are really what's turned the game on its head there. So we all know with day-night cricket, and this is not me taking anything away from the West Indies, by the way, whatsoever. And because I haven't seen any of it, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think sometimes you can get the rub of the green in terms of when the ball swings around and is of more benefit to the bowlers in day-night cricket, depending on when sessions land and when innings finish and so on and so forth. So I don't think it's as quite as straightforward as, playing day Test matches. But look, 2 teams went out to compete. The West Indies have gotten up against Australia, who we know from the summer and since, they've turned Pakistan over in the recent past. Fantastic result. Absolutely fantastic result for West Indies. So, and long may it continue. West Indies cricket needs to get back to a place where they're feared. And, not just Test cricket, I think cricket in general. And hopefully this can be the start of something that goes on to become that.
You could see the emotion on Brian Lara's face for those of you that have managed to watch that clip when the West Indies won and Josh Hazlewood was bowled by Shamar Joseph. It was something that West Indies and cricket needed, I think. They really needed a pick-me-up, of which this provided. And as you say, it was Shamar Joseph that took that 7 for. I think the story is, though, I mean, he went off injured, right? So this was a real big bravery.
I don't know.
Yeah, so he went off injured when he was batting. Is basically, I think he got hit in his foot.
He's got a busted toe, hasn't he? I heard, yeah.
Yeah. And then he comes on and he bowls and he takes a 7 for. But that's not even the story. He was an unknown cricketer 18 months ago. Yeah. So I saw a tweet from AB de Villiers, and he basically said, go and have a read of Shamar Joseph's Wikipedia page. And it basically will put you in tears as to understand where this kid has come from. And it was interesting to hear him say that, from his perspective, Test cricket is all that he's going to live for. He's not going to chase the big money in T20 cricket, which, it's a big statement to make.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how long that lasts. But yeah, fantastic win for the West Indies. Yeah, and I think that's the end of their series, and I think it's 1-1, right? I think, again, it's one of these strange ones where...
Yeah, I don't like this two-test series thing. Like, imagine the high that the West Indies guys are on at now, like, after that. Like, that's incredible. Like, give them an opportunity to go out and do it again.
Yeah, exactly.
How much would that be for West Indies cricket to go into a third test against Australia, knowing that they've got an opportunity to win the series? Now, whether they did or they didn't, a drawn test series for them is great, but two test series, come on. Like, Simon's thoughts on the ICC were plain and evident, weren't they, a couple of weeks ago? But, there's got to be some kind of level of consistency. Like, what's the World Test Championship doing if surely everybody has to play everybody the same amount of times for that to even be worth the paper it's written on? Like, so, yeah, look, lots of... But it's a great thing for two just mad results today, considering I think,
and really close ones, right?
Yeah, and at points in both matches, you would have thought that the Aussies were shoo-ins to win it, as you would have thought India were shoo-ins to win the first test against England. So, very. Well, yeah, exactly. Hey, and look, I've been invited on a podcast on Tuesday actually to talk about it, and is this kind of a bit of a rebirth of Test cricket? Is this week kind of what Test cricket needed? So God knows what I'll say. I'll probably just talk a load of nonsense for 15, 20 minutes and then politely be asked to leave.
So just like be on this podcast. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard. Oh, John, great to catch up, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Next test match starting in a couple of days' time. The next, I just had a quick look. It's actually the Australia West Indies Test series moves on to the ODIs. So they play against each other on Tuesday. And I actually don't know when the next England game is. Do you happen to know that off the top of your head?
I'm going to say, I think it might be Friday, the 2nd of Feb. Yeah, Friday. Yeah, so...
Not too long to wait, as you say, yeah, which is good.
No, and I think it'll be interesting to see, how Jack Leach pulls up Jadeja. Like, what a piece of fielding by Ben Stokes to run him out, by the way. But Jadeja pulling up with a bit of a hamstring injury, attempting that run. So, he's going to be a massive loss for them. But then that might make the Indians think, okay, well, we might need to play an extra seamer, leave it a bit greener. They're going with two spinners. Then does Jimmy come back into the side? Does Ollie Robinson come back into the side? And, might play into England's hands a little bit. So we shall see. But, yeah, enjoyed tonight, mate. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it was good. Thanks for listening. We will do this after the second test match, so probably around about the 3rd of February, which is day 2. No, we won't. Don't worry. It'll be day 4 or 5, we hope. And yeah, Jono, thanks for your time, mate, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Cheers, Huge.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.